The massive crystal chamber floated in space around the neutron star Kepler 442. Inside the gleaming walls sat representatives from 12 different alien species. Each one looked down at the single human who stood in the center of the room. Captain Jake Morrison wore his best uniform, but he still felt small compared to the towering creatures around him. The Zalani Prime Minister clicked his mandibles together in what Jake knew was anger. The insect-like alien stood 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the chamber's light. Behind him sat dozens of other Zalani officials, all watching Jake with those same cold eyes. "Human Morrison!" The Prime Minister's voice buzzed through the translation device around Jake's neck. "Your species has broken council law for the last time." Jake straightened his shoulders. He had expected this meeting for months now, ever since human ships had started terraforming the dead world of Kepler 186f without asking permission first. The council had rules about everything, and humans were tired of following them. "We followed all safety protocols," Jake said. "The world was dead. No life existed there. We harmed nothing." A laugh echoed through the chamber. It came from the Arcturian representative, a tall, pale being whose skin seemed to glow with its own light. The Arcturians had ruled space for over 2,000 years. They thought all other species were children playing with toys. "Safety protocols," the Arcturian said. Her voice sounded like music, but Jake heard the mockery in it. "You think following basic safety measures gives you the right to change worlds as you please?" "The council must approve all terraforming projects," added the cetacean representative. The whale-like being spoke through a water-filled tank that allowed it to attend meetings. "This law has existed for 800 years. Jake looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression: disgust, disappointment, the kind of look adults gave to naughty children. Humans had been part of the council for 300 years, and nothing had changed. They were still treated like the newest and most primitive members. "Why should we ask permission to improve a dead rock?" Jake asked. "We developed the terraforming technology ourselves. We used our own ships and our own people. We harmed no one." The Zalani Prime Minister's mandibles clicked faster now. "Because you lack wisdom. Your species rushes forward without thinking. You change things without understanding consequences. Like when you tried to build that mining station inside the Vega system," said another voice. This came from a Dracony representative, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color when it spoke. "You almost disrupted 3 different trade routes. Or when you established that colony on Proxima Centauri b without checking soil composition first," added a Morphean. "Delegate." The jellyfish-like creature floated in its own atmospheric sphere. "Half your crops died in the first season." Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "We learned from those mistakes. That's what intelligent species do. They try new things and improve." "Intelligent species ask for guidance from their elders," the Arcturian said. "They study established methods before attempting innovation." The chamber fell quiet. Jake could hear the hum of the station's artificial gravity generators and the whisper of air recycling systems. He knew what was coming next. The humans back on Earth had prepared him for this moment. "The council has reached a decision," the Zalani Prime Minister announced. "Humanity will surrender all terraforming research to the Science Directorate immediately. You will also cease all unauthorized expansion into unclaimed systems." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. The Prime Minister's compound eyes glittered. "Then humanity will be expelled from the Galactic Council. All trade agreements will be terminated. All human colonies in council space will be given 90 days to evacuate." Jake looked around the chamber one more time. 12 species, hundreds of representatives, all united in their decision to punish humanity for daring to act independently. He thought about the message he had received from Earth before this meeting. The instructions were clear. "Humanity rejects your demands," Jake said. We will not surrender our research. We will not ask permission to explore dead worlds. We developed our technology through our own work, and we'll use it as we see fit." The silence that followed was deafening. No species had ever directly refused a council order. Not in 800 years of galactic government. The aliens stared at Jake as if he had just declared war on the entire galaxy. The Arcturian stood up. When she reached her full height, she towered over everyone else in the chamber. "You dare refuse the Council's wisdom!" "I dare refuse the Council's control," Jake replied. "Humanity has followed your rules for 3 centuries. We've contributed our resources, our people, our loyalty, and what have we received in return? Condescension, mockery, treatment like children who can't be trusted with sharp objects." "Because that's exactly what you are," snapped the Dracony representative. "A young species that stumbled into space travel through luck rather than understanding." "Perhaps," Jake said. "But we're a young species that's tired of being told we can't grow up." The Zilani Prime Minister raised one of his 4 arms. "The vote will be held now. All in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Council." 11. Arms, tentacles, and appendages rose into the air. Only Jake remained motionless. "The motion passes unanimously," the Prime Minister announced. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. All human colonies in Council space must evacuate within 90 standard days. Any human vessels found in Council territory after that deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Jake nodded slowly. "Understood. I'll relay your decision to Earth." Captain Morrison, the Arcturian's musical voice, stopped him as he turned to leave. "I hope your species understands what they've chosen. The galaxy is a dangerous place for those without protection." Jake looked back at her. "We'll manage. Humans always do." As he walked toward the chamber's exit, Jake could hear the aliens talking among themselves. Their voices mixed together in a chorus of different languages and translation frequencies. He caught fragments of their conversations. Relief that the troublesome humans were finally gone. Satisfaction that the natural order had been restored. Speculation about how long humanity would last on their own in the dangerous Outer Rim territories. Jake's shuttle was waiting in the station's docking bay. As he climbed aboard, he could see Council security ships already moving into formation. They would escort him to the edge of Council space and make sure he didn't try to return. More ships were probably already heading toward human colonies to begin the forced evacuation. The shuttle's engines hummed to life, and Jake felt the familiar sensation of acceleration. Through the viewport, he watched the Council station grow smaller behind him. For 300 years, that crystal chamber had represented the height of galactic civilization. Now it looked like a prison that humanity had finally escaped from. Jake activated his communication system and began composing his report to Earth. The message was simple. The Council had made their choice. Now, humanity would make theirs. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you threw out the one species that refused to accept limits on their potential. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the UHS Endeavour, watching the largest evacuation in human history unfold before her. Thousands of ships filled the space around New Harmony, one of humanity's most successful colonies in Council territory. Cargo vessels, passenger transports, and military escorts all worked together to move 50 million humans from 37 worlds before the Council's deadline expired. The evacuation had been running for 60 days now, and Carter felt the weight of every decision on her shoulders. 50 million people trusted her to get them safely to the Outer Rim territories where humanity would start over. The Council had made it clear that any humans found in their space after the deadline would be arrested or worse. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving another refugee convoy from the Tau Ceti system, 200 ships carrying about 500,000 people." Carter nodded. "Direct them to Rendezvous Point 7. Make sure they have enough supplies for the journey to the Outer Rim." She turned back to the viewport and watched the steady stream of human ships heading away from Council space. Some carried entire families with all their possessions. Others held just the clothes on their backs after the Council had seized their property. But every ship carried something more valuable than material goods. They carried human determination to build something better. "Ma'am," another officer approached. "Dr. Rodriguez is requesting permission to speak with you. He says it's urgent." Carter knew Ben Rodriguez well. The xenoarchaeologist had spent years studying alien ruins throughout human space. If he said something was urgent, it usually meant he had found something important. "Put him through," Carter said. Rodriguez's face appeared on the main screen. He looked excited and tired at the same time. Behind him, Carter could see the rocky landscape of Kepler 438b, one of humanity's furthest settlements. "Admiral, you need to see what we found." "Here," Rodriguez said. "We were packing up the archaeological site when we discovered something incredible. These aren't natural rock formations. They're ruins from an ancient civilization." Carter frowned. "How ancient are we talking about?" "Millions of years," Rodriguez replied. "Maybe tens of millions. This predates every known civilization in the galaxy, even the Arcturians." "What makes you so certain?" Carter asked. Rodriguez held up a small crystalline device. "We found data cores throughout the ruins. They're written in pure mathematics that our computers can decode easily. The other Council species use bio-neural systems that depend on living operators. These cores are completely artificial." Carter felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of information do they contain?" "Technology blueprints," Rodriguez said. "Energy manipulation techniques that make fusion power look primitive, faster-than-light travel methods that don't require exotic matter. Material sciences that could revolutionize manufacturing. Admiral, whoever built these ruins understood physics in ways that challenge everything we know about the universe." "Are you certain the data is authentic?" Carter asked. Rodriguez nodded eagerly. "I've had my team verify everything 3 times. The mathematical principles are sound. The technology designs follow logical progressions. This is real, Admiral. We've found the remnants of a civilization that was more advanced than anything in the current galaxy." Carter's mind raced through the implications. "Can you transport the cores safely?" "Already done," Rodriguez replied. "We've loaded everything onto the evacuation ships. I estimate we have enough data to keep human scientists busy for decades." "Good work, Doctor. Keep this information classified for now. We'll analyze it properly once we reach the outer rim." As Rodriguez's transmission ended, Carter's tactical officer approached with another report. "Admiral, we're receiving interesting data from the refugee convoys. The colonies are reporting some unexpected developments." "What kind of developments?" Carter asked. "Innovations," the officer replied. "Cut off from Council supply chains, human. Settlements are improvising solutions to problems they never had to solve before. New Texas has developed gravitational lenses that can extract rare elements from asteroids at impossible efficiency rates. Haven Colony has created crop strains that grow in environments the Council considers uninhabitable." Carter smiled for the first time in weeks. "Humans adapting and improving? That sounds familiar." "There's more," the officer continued. "The mining operations on Ceres Station have figured out how to process raw materials without the expensive Council-manufactured equipment they used to depend on. Their new techniques are actually more efficient than the old methods." "And the agricultural reports from Haven," another officer added. "They're growing food in soil conditions that Council experts said were impossible to cultivate, not only growing it but producing higher yields than they ever achieved with Council-approved methods." Carter walked to the navigation console and studied the star charts showing humanity's new territory in the outer rim. The Council had assumed these regions were worthless because they contained no easily accessible resources and few habitable worlds. But humans had never been afraid of hard work or impossible conditions. "Admiral," her science officer called out, "I'm analyzing the preliminary data from Dr. Rodriguez's discovery. If even half of these technologies are viable, we could be looking at energy sources that make antimatter seem inefficient. Show me, Carter said. The science officer transferred data to the main display. Mathematical equations filled the screen, describing energy manipulation techniques that seemed to violate known physics. This formula here describes a method for converting matter directly into usable energy without the particle-antiparticle reaction that antimatter requires. The efficiency ratings are beyond anything in our current technology. Carter studied the equations. She had trained as an engineer before joining the military, and she could follow the mathematical logic. The principles were sound, even if they challenged conventional understanding. "What about the faster-than-light travel methods?" she asked. "Even more impressive," the science officer replied. "These designs show how to fold space-time without requiring the exotic matter that our current jump drives depend on. The energy requirements are actually lower than our existing technology." Carter felt excitement building in her chest. Humanity had been expelled from the Council for refusing to surrender their terraforming technology. Now they possessed knowledge that made Council science look primitive by comparison. "Ma'am," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving reports from Convoy 7. They're detecting Council patrol ships moving to intercept refugee transports near the Vega system." Carter's excitement vanished. "How many ships?" "At least 50 Council vessels. They're demanding that the refugee ships stop for inspection." "Those transports are still in Council space," Carter said. "Technically, the Council has the right to stop them." "Admiral," her tactical officer said quietly, "intelligence reports suggest the Council isn't just conducting inspections. They're confiscating technology and research data from the refugee ships. Some convoys have reported passengers being detained for questioning." Carter clenched her fists. The Council wasn't content with expelling humanity. They wanted to steal human innovations before letting them go. She looked at the star charts again. Most of the refugee convoys would need another 20 days to reach the Outer Rim safely. "Signal all convoy commanders," Carter ordered. "Implement stealth protocols where possible. Avoid Council patrols and report any harassment immediately. We're not going to let them steal our people or our discoveries." As her crew rushed to carry out her orders, Carter stared at the equations still displayed on the main screen. Dr. Rodriguez had found technology that could revolutionize space travel and energy production. Human colonies were already developing, innovations that surpassed Council methods. Maybe being expelled from the galactic community wasn't the disaster everyone had feared. Maybe it was exactly the opportunity humanity needed to show the galaxy what they were really capable of when no one was holding them back. Commander Alex Turner watched the Zalani patrol fleet through his ship's cloaking display. 6 massive warships moved through the Rigel system in perfect formation, their sensors sweeping space for any sign of human presence. They found nothing, because Turner's small fleet was completely invisible to their detection systems. The cloaking technology came from the ancient ruins that Dr. Rodriguez had discovered. Human engineers had spent months studying the mathematical principles before, finally understanding how to bend light and energy around solid objects. Now Turner commanded 12 ships that could move through Council space without being detected. "Commander," his tactical officer whispered, "we're detecting the prison camps on the 3rd planet. Sensors show approximately 50,000 Drakmari being held in forced labor facilities." Turner nodded grimly. The Drakmari were a reptilian species that the Zalani had conquered 3 centuries ago. Since then, they had been used as slave workers in mining operations throughout Zalani space. The Council knew about this, but they allowed it because the Zalani were founding members with special privileges. "Any sign of Zalani ground forces?" Turner asked. "Minimal security," his officer replied. "Maybe 200 guards spread across 5 facilities. The Zalani never expected anyone to challenge their control over the Drakmari." Turner activated his communication system. "All ships prepare for synchronized strike. We go in fast and quiet. Free the prisoners and get out before the patrol fleet can respond. The human ships descended toward the planet's surface like ghosts. Their modified engines made no sound and left no energy signature that Zalani sensors could detect. Turner had trained his crews for months in these stealth operations. They knew exactly what to do. The first facility was surrounded by energy barriers that were supposed to be impenetrable. Human engineers had solved that problem too. Using technology from the ancient ruins, they had developed personal devices that could phase through solid matter. Turner's Marines walked through the prison walls like they were made of air. The Zalani guards never knew what hit them. One moment they were patrolling empty corridors, and the next they were unconscious, on the floor. Human stun weapons were designed to disable without causing permanent harm. Turner's mission was liberation, not revenge. "Commander," one of his Marines reported over the radio, "we've reached the prisoner compounds. The Drakmari are asking if this is real or just another Zalani trick." "Tell them it's real," Turner replied. "Tell them humans have come to set them free." The liberation took less than 2 hours. Turner's ships transported the freed Drakmari to hidden bases in the Veil Nebula, where human scientists were working on the ancient technology. But more importantly, they also transported something else: weapon designs based on the ruins' energy, manipulation principles. Dr. Kate Phillips ran the technology transfer program from the main research station hidden deep within the nebula's gas clouds. The Veil Nebula was perfect cover because its radiation made it impossible for Council ships to operate there safely. Human ships could navigate it using the ancient shielding technology they had developed. "Commander Turner," Phillips greeted him as he arrived at the station. "How did the Drakmari react to the weapon specifications?" "Better than we hoped," Turner replied. "Their engineers understood the principles immediately. They're already building improved versions that work better with their physiology." Phillips smiled. "The Drakmari have excellent technical skills. The Zalani kept them as slaves precisely because they're so good at building and maintaining complex systems." "Any word from the other liberation operations?" Turner asked. "Positive results across the board," Phillips replied. "The Vorth aquatic beings that we freed from Arcturian mining platforms are contributing their bioengineering expertise. The Kandali energy beings that the cetaceans kept in containment are helping us understand electromagnetic manipulation." Turner walked to the observation deck and looked out at the hidden fleet assembling in the nebula. Human ships worked alongside vessels from 6 different species that had been freed from Council oppression. Each species brought unique knowledge and capabilities to their growing alliance. "Doctor," Turner said, "have you heard the latest intelligence reports from Council space?" Phillips joined him at the viewport. "You mean the uprisings?" 12 systems in Zalani territory are now in open rebellion," Turner said. "The Drakmari aren't just defending themselves anymore. They're actively fighting back and winning. Though Council's response has been predictably brutal," Phillips added. "They're deploying planet-killer weapons against civilian populations, but they're finding that their weapons aren't as effective as they used to be." Turner nodded. "The ancient shielding technology is proving remarkably effective against Council weapons. Energy barriers that can absorb antimatter explosions and convert the energy into power for our own systems." "The Council leadership is starting to panic," Phillips said. "Intelligence reports indicate heated arguments in their emergency sessions. They expected to crush human resistance within months. Instead, they're losing territory and allies at an alarming rate." Turner's communication device chimed with an incoming message. "Commander, this is Captain Rodriguez on the reconnaissance ship. We've detected a major Council fleet movement, 50 ships heading toward the Proxima Centauri system. That's where we established our new main colony," Turner said. "They're going after civilian targets now." "Not just civilian targets," Phillips corrected. "Intelligence suggests they're trying to capture intact examples of our technology. They want to understand how we're doing what we're doing." Turner smiled coldly. "Then let's give them a demonstration they won't forget." The battle at Proxima Centauri became the first major engagement between Council forces and the Human Alliance. The Council fleet arrived expecting to find a lightly defended human settlement. Instead, they encountered something that shouldn't have existed according to their understanding of technology. Human ships phased in and out of solid matter using dimensional manipulation techniques derived from the ancient ruins. Their weapons fired energy beams that passed through the Council ships' shields as if they weren't there. Most shocking of all, the human vessels seemed to absorb incoming fire and grow stronger from the attacks. The Council fleet's commander sent increasingly desperate reports back to headquarters. Their ships are immune to our weapons. Our most powerful cannons are actually charging their defensive systems. Request immediate reinforcements and scientific analysis teams. But reinforcements never came. While the Council fleet was engaged at Proxima Centauri, human liberation forces struck simultaneously at 15 other systems. The coordinated attacks freed millions of enslaved beings and captured dozens of important Council facilities. Dr. Phillips monitored the battles from her research station. "Commander Turner, we're receiving surrender requests from 3 Council ship commanders. They're asking for asylum in human space." "Individual surrender or entire crews?" Turner asked. "Entire crews," Phillips replied. "Apparently word is spreading through Council military units about how we treat prisoners and liberated populations. They're realizing that humans offer something the Council never has: freedom and equality." Turner looked at the tactical displays showing Human Alliance forces, advancing on multiple fronts. "6 months ago, the Council expelled us for being too primitive to govern ourselves. Now they can't stop us from liberating their slave populations and defeating their fleets." "The ancient technology certainly helps," Phillips said. "But I think there's something else. The Council species have become comfortable with their established hierarchies. They stopped innovating because they didn't think they needed to improve. And humans never stopped trying to find better ways to do things," Turner added. "Even when the Council told us we were wrong." The communication system activated with another report. "This is Admiral Carter. Council intelligence indicates they're mobilizing their reserve fleets for a major counteroffensive. They're pulling ships from border patrol duties and peaceful systems." "How many ships?" Turner asked. "Over 300 vessels," Carter replied. "The largest military operation in Council history. They're calling it the final solution to the human problem." Phillips and Turner exchanged glances. The Council was preparing to commit genocide rather than accept that their system of galactic government was failing. "Admiral," Turner said, "I think it's time to show them that humans aren't the problem. We're the solution." President Sam Collins stood before the first Human Alliance Congress in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station. The massive space station orbited a red dwarf star in what used to be considered worthless space on the galactic rim. Now it served as the capital of a growing alliance that challenged everything the old Council represented. Representatives from 19 different species filled the circular chamber. Each delegation sat as equals regardless of their species' size, technology, level, or military strength. The Drakmari reptilian engineers sat next to the gaseous Candeli energy beings. Aquatic Vorth delegates shared tables with the crystalline Zephyrians who communicated through harmonic vibrations. Collins looked out at the diverse assembly and felt pride in what humanity had accomplished. 2 years ago, they had been expelled from the Galactic Council for refusing to surrender their independence. Now they led an alliance that controlled 40% of charted space and was growing every month. "Fellow beings," Collins began, "we gather today to celebrate not just our survival, but our transformation of galactic civilization itself. The old Council taught us that some species were meant to rule while others were meant to serve. We have proven that cooperation achieves more than domination." Applause echoed through the chamber in dozens of different forms. The Drakmari hissed approval, while the Condali flickered their energy patterns in appreciation. The Vorth created harmonic tones that resonated through the water-filled sections of their seating areas. Dr. Rachel Kim will now present her report. On Project Starbridge, Collins announced. Kim approached the central podium carrying a device that looked like a crystalline sculpture. She activated the device, and holographic displays filled the chamber showing a three-dimensional map of Alliance space. Project Starbridge is now complete, Kim announced. We have established instantaneous communication relays connecting every Alliance system. Unlike the Council's bio-neural networks that require living operators and can be disrupted by psychic interference, our quantum relays are entirely artificial and virtually unhackable. The holographic map showed golden lines connecting hundreds of star systems. Messages could now travel instantly across Alliance territory without depending on the biological components that made Council communications vulnerable to sabotage. More importantly, Kim continued, our communication network is open to all Alliance members. Every species has equal access to information. There are no restricted channels or classified frequencies based on species hierarchy. General Nick Santos took the podium next. The military commander had led Alliance forces through dozens of successful liberation campaigns. His reputation for treating enemy prisoners humanely had caused numerous Council military units to surrender rather than fight. The military situation continues to improve, Santos reported. Alliance forces have liberated 43 systems in the past year. Our casualty rates remain minimal due to superior technology and tactics. More importantly, we have established settlements in previously inaccessible regions. The holographic display changed to show human colonies thriving in environments the Council considered impossible to inhabit. Cities built inside nebulae, where the radiation provided free energy for their power systems. Mining operations established in the gravitational shadows of black holes where space-time distortion allowed faster-than-light manufacturing techniques. Council forces have attempted to use planet-killer weapons against our civilian populations, Santos continued. However, our evacuation protocols can empty entire worlds in hours using matter transportation arrays derived from ancient Forerunner technology. We have successfully evacuated over 2 million civilians from threatened systems without losing a single life. The Drakmari representative stood to speak. General Santos, what is the current status of Council territory? Shrinking. Rapidly, Santos replied. The Council now controls less than 30% of charted space. Most of their remaining territory consists of heavily fortified core worlds where the founding species maintain their traditional power structures. What about neutral systems? Asked the Vorth delegate. Increasing numbers of independent species are requesting Alliance membership or protection, Santos said. Word is spreading about our treatment of liberated populations and our commitment to equality. Many systems that previously feared Council retaliation are now openly supporting our cause. Dr. Amy Foster approached the podium to present the scientific report. The xenobiologist had led breakthrough research in reversing environmental damage caused by centuries of Council exploitation. Alliance scientists have achieved remarkable progress in ecological restoration, Foster announced. We have successfully reversed industrial pollution on 12 worlds that the Council considered permanently damaged. Our techniques for cleaning toxic atmospheres and restoring natural ecosystems are now being shared freely with all member species. The display showed before and after images of worlds that had been strip-mined or polluted during Council rule. Barren landscapes had been transformed into thriving ecosystems using a combination of human ingenuity and alien expertise. We have also solved the artificial gravity problem that has limited space station construction for millennia, Foster continued. Our new gravity generators do not require exotic matter or enormous energy expenditures. This technology is allowing us to build larger and more comfortable space habitats for all species. What about first contact protocols? Asked the Zephyrian representative. The Alliance has established clear guidelines for contact with pre-spaceflight civilizations, Foster replied. We provide subtle assistance and protection rather than conquest or interference. 3 primitive species have already requested Alliance protection after Council survey teams threatened their homeworlds with strip mining operations. Collins returned to the podium as the scientific presentation concluded. The success we celebrate today extends beyond military victories or technological advances. We have proven that galactic civilization can be based on cooperation rather than exploitation. The economic report came from Maria Santos, the Alliance's trade coordinator. Alliance economic systems operate on cooperative principles where each species contributes their strengths and receives support for their weaknesses. We have eliminated slave labor, tribute payments, and exploitative resource extraction. Our trade networks now carry more cargo than the Council's restricted systems, Santos reported. Open markets and fair pricing have attracted merchant vessels from across the galaxy. Even some Council species are secretly trading with Alliance worlds because our prices are better and our contracts are more reliable. What about the Council's economic response? Asked the Kandali delegate. Increasingly desperate, Santos replied. They have imposed harsh taxation on their remaining member species to fund their military expansion. Several inner worlds are reporting civil unrest due to economic hardship. The Council's war against us is bankrupting their own civilization. Collins looked around the chamber at the representatives who had chosen freedom over submission. 2 years ago, the Council told us that we lacked the wisdom to govern ourselves. Today, we govern not just ourselves, but 19 species who chose to join our alliance voluntarily. The ancient Arcturians claimed that hierarchy was the natural order of the universe, he continued. We have proven that cooperation is stronger than domination. The Zelani insisted that some species were born to rule, while others were born to serve. We have shown that every intelligent being deserves equality and respect. Communications Officer David Lee approached the podium with an urgent message. Mr. President, we're receiving a transmission from Council Space. It's a formal request for negotiations. The chamber fell silent. For 2 years, the Council had refused to acknowledge the Alliance as a legitimate government. They had dismissed human leaders as terrorists and criminals. Now they were asking to negotiate. Who signed the request? Collins asked. All 12 founding species, Lee replied. Even the Arcturians. Collins smiled. Send our response. The Alliance is willing to negotiate, but only as equals. No more hierarchy, no more slavery, no more exploitation. If the Council wants peace, they'll have to accept that the galaxy has changed. Admiral Dan Parker watched the massive Council defense station through his flagship's viewports. The crystal structure that had once housed the Galactic Council now sat surrounded by desperate defensive fleets from 12 different species. 5 years after humanity's expulsion, the galaxy looked nothing like what anyone had expected. The siege of Kepler 442 was not about conquest. Parker's fleet carried negotiators rather than invasion forces. The human alliance had grown to encompass 47 species and controlled 70% of charted space. The old Council clung to their core worlds like survivors on a sinking ship. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from individual Council ships. 3 Morphean vessels and 2 Draconi cruisers are asking for asylum. Parker nodded. Grant their requests and escort them to safe zones. Make sure their crews understand they'll be treated as refugees, not prisoners. Word had spread throughout Council space about Alliance treatment of former enemies. Captured Council personnel were offered education, retraining, and citizenship, rather than imprisonment or execution. Many Council military officers had begun defecting to Alliance forces when they realized their own governments considered them expendable. Dr. Amy Foster monitored the situation from the Alliance research vessel that accompanied the fleet. Her teams had spent years developing solutions to problems the Council claimed were impossible. Environmental restoration techniques could heal worlds damaged by centuries of exploitation. Universal translation protocols worked with any form of communication, including nonverbal species. Admiral Parker, Foster's voice came through the communication system. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Council station. It appears they're attempting to activate some kind of super weapon. Parker turned to his tactical officer. Analysis. Unknown technology, the officer replied. Energy patterns. Don't match anything in our databases. Could be an attempt to destabilize the local star. Or a desperate bluff, Parker added. Signal the Council representatives. Tell them we're here to negotiate, not to destroy them. The response came quickly. Admiral Parker, this is Prime Minister Zektar of the Zalani Coalition. We agree to negotiations but demand guarantees for the safety of Council leadership. You have our word, Parker replied. The Alliance has never executed political prisoners or former enemies. We believe in rehabilitation, not revenge. The negotiations took place aboard the neutral station that had been hastily constructed in the empty space between the two fleets. Representatives from both sides met in chambers designed to accommodate the diverse physiologies of dozens of species. President Collins led the Alliance delegation. Beside him sat representatives from every member species, each with equal voice in the proceedings. The Council delegation looked smaller and more desperate than their opponents. The ancient Arcturians who had once commanded respect throughout the galaxy now appeared fragile and uncertain. The terms are simple, Collins began. Complete dissolution of the hierarchical council system. Establishment of a democratic republic, where all species have representation based on population rather than historical power. Immediate emancipation of all enslaved populations and full citizenship rights for liberated species. The Arcturian representative spoke with her musical voice, but the arrogance was gone. These terms would essentially end our civilization as we know it. Your civilization was based on the oppression of other species, replied the Drakmari delegate. Perhaps it deserves to end. Collins raised his hand for silence. We're not here to destroy anyone's culture or way of life. We're here to ensure that no species can dominate others through force or historical privilege. What guarantees do we have that humans won't simply replace the Council as the new dominant species? Asked the Zalani Prime Minister. Look around this negotiation chamber, Collins replied. Count the human representatives versus the representatives from other species. Humans make up less than 20% of the Alliance delegation. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to participate in it as equals. Dr. Foster presented the Alliance's technological sharing proposals. All scientific advances will be made freely available to all Republic members. No species will have exclusive access to advanced technology. Research will be conducted cooperatively with shared benefits. The Council representatives studied the proposals with growing amazement. The Alliance was offering to share technology that made their own science look primitive. Instantaneous communication networks, matter transportation systems, environmental, restoration techniques, and energy manipulation methods that violated known physics. Where did you acquire these technologies? Asked the Arcturian. From the ruins of a civilization that existed before any of our species evolved, Foster replied. We call them the Forerunners. They left behind mathematical principles that human computers could decode because we use artificial systems rather than bio-neural networks. And you're willing to share this knowledge freely. Knowledge belongs to all intelligent life, Foster said. The Forerunners' technology should benefit everyone, not just humans. The negotiations continued for days. Alliance representatives demonstrated patience and flexibility while Council delegates struggled with concepts they had never considered. Equal representation for all species, regardless of size or military strength. Democratic decision-making instead of hierarchical authority. Cooperative development rather than competitive exploitation. General Santos presented the military integration proposals. All existing Council military forces will be incorporated into the Republican Defense Force. Officers will be evaluated based on competence and character rather than species membership. Former Council troops who have committed war crimes will face justice, but most personnel will be offered retraining and new positions. What about our worlds? Asked the Morphean delegate. Will Alliance forces occupy our homeworlds? The Alliance has no interest in occupation, Santos replied. Local governments will remain in place as long as they comply with Republican law regarding species equality and individual rights. The economic proposals came last. The Republican economy will operate on free market principles with strong protections against exploitation, explained Trade Coordinator Maria Santos. No species will be forced to provide tribute or uncompensated labor. All trade agreements will be negotiated between equals. As the negotiations neared conclusion, the Arcturian representative made one final attempt to preserve their old system. Our species has guided galactic civilization for over 2,000 years. We have knowledge and experience that younger species lack. Then share that knowledge as teachers and advisors, Collins replied. Wisdom is valuable regardless of which species possesses it, but wisdom doesn't justify domination. The final agreement was signed by representatives from 59 species. The Galactic Council officially dissolved itself and transferred authority to the Provisional Republican government. The new capital would be established on New Geneva Station rather than the old Council facility. Admiral Parker watched as Council defense fleets began standing down across the galaxy. Ships that had fought desperately to preserve the old order now broadcast messages of cooperation and hope. The transition would take months or years to complete, but the hardest part was over. Dr. Foster received reports from across the galaxy as Alliance medical teams began treating populations that had suffered under Council rule. Environmental restoration projects started on dozens of polluted worlds. Educational programs offered literacy and technical training to species that had been deliberately kept ignorant. Jake Morrison, now an elder statesman, addressed the first session of the Galactic Republican Congress. Representatives from 59 species filled an assembly hall designed to accommodate every form of intelligent life known to exist. 5 years ago, the Council threw us out for refusing to surrender our independence, Morrison said. They told us we lacked the wisdom to govern ourselves. Today, we govern not through force or tradition, but through the consent of free beings who chose cooperation over domination. He looked out at the diverse assembly of creatures who had once been enemies or strangers. We didn't conquer the galaxy. We liberated it. We didn't rewrite their rules. We created new ones based on the simple principle that every intelligent being deserves freedom, equality, and the chance to reach their full potential. The applause that followed came in dozens of different forms, but carried the same message. The galaxy had changed forever, and the change had made it better.